Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. I am Michael Clark. Little known fact about me, my favorite brand of hip hop comes from the most unlikeliest of places in Minneapolis, Minnesota. There is an outstanding record label called Rhymesayers based out of Minneapolis, and my most favorite duo of all time is on that record label, a group almost all of you have heard of called Atmosphere. On today's episode, I welcome one half of that duo, Anthony Davis, professionally known as Ant, to the show today, and we have a fantastic conversation. I have to be completely honest. He had some technical difficulties jumping on the platform. I trauma dumped on the poor guy within the first 5 minutes of the episode. I shared a very deep story about how Atmosphere was my comfort music in a year that was really rough on me, 2023. A year where I had to deal with a lot of mortality. Ant is a fantastic musician. I got to see him live the week before with another one of my favorite artists, Brother Ali. We talk a little bit about that, and it's just a great opportunity to have a conversation with somebody that I look up to. As always, listener and viewer discretion is advised. Ant joins me on Caught on the Mic today. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are, December 2024. Just last week, I got the opportunity to see some of my favorite artists in Omaha, Nebraska perform at the Reverb Lounge. I got to see Brother Ali and my next guest. He is one half of the legendary hip-hop duo Atmosphere, Ant, otherwise known as Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. How you doing, my friend? Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me download the Meet app or whatever it was. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Well, man, I tell you what, that's just technology. It's crazy, man. It's always changing. We're using an app called Riverside, and when it works fantastically.
Yeah.
And the fidelity is amazing. But when it doesn't work, fuck.
My only thing is, like, I'll just get used to one thing, and it feels like the next time I do something, it's changed. And it's like, well, why? What was wrong with, you know what I mean? That's all. That's the only thing. And that's the story of my life. You know what I mean? Like, nowadays with technology, with your computers and stuff, when you do it, like doing the live DJ thing now, like every time I turn around, there's some weird update or of it. Otherwise, my mixer doesn't work. And I'm like, well, why? Why?
Well, brother, I got to tell you, I want to share a little anecdote with you because I know fans will share stories on how your music has shaped their life or influenced their life all the time. And I'm going to take a few moments, and I do want to share a recent story on how Atmosphere and your music in particular had a positive influence on my life. Mm-hmm. 2023 was a bitch of a year for me last year. It's almost 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
The new year happened. A few weeks into the new year, my twin stepdaughters, who were juniors in high school, got into this horrific car accident. Luckily, they came out unscathed. A few days later, an old friend of mine, somebody I knew from the music business, took his own life in a very performative fashion. A week after that, a 17-year-old girl that worked for me also took her life. And it was a lot in a short period of time. And that was all by the second week of February.
Whoa.
February 22nd, Atmosphere dropped the song Okay. And I've always been a fan of your guys' music. You've always shined a light in my life when I needed it, whether it be through The Best Day, through Sunshine, or numerous other songs. But OK kind of became the theme song for my year, and it became my go-to song anytime something kind of felt amiss or felt off.
Yes.
It was that song. And I wish I could say that things got better beyond that point, but the same year my dad passed away. I had a couple of vacations get canceled, but I tell you, 2 years later, almost 2 years later, still to this very day, "Okay" is my pick me up song. It's the song I go to anytime I'm having a bad day. And I just want to thank you personally for putting that art out into the world, because sometimes you never know the amount of impact it's going to have on somebody's life.
It's pretty wild because, you know, in that area, those words, I didn't write any of those words, you know? So I can't really take too much credit for that kind of thing. But the only thing I can take credit for, at least musically, with that is I had that music for a long time, and when I presented it to Slug, I was like, you know, I don't know if you're gonna like this or not. I'm pretty sure you will because it's pretty good. And I was like, but it has, you know, I want to start the next album we do very optimistically because we've been doing dark stuff at the top for years. I was like, let's just start super optimistic and then we'll just go dark from there. But it won't matter because it sets a tone, and that's going to be, you know. And so he wrote the words he wrote, and of course I liked it and I okayed it.
You know, last night I was listening to Collection of Sounds Volume 2. I'm sitting in my dining room. My wife and I are about to go to a high school basketball game. And I think that's the synchronicity of yours and Slug's musical relationship, is through your music and his words. You guys do a really great job of creating a feeling in a person. And it does lend to the name of your group, Atmosphere. It sets the tone. It sets how somebody's going to feel in that specific moment. And I think that's a tremendous thing to put out into the world.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate all that. I kind of agree.
So you just wrapped up the Satisfied Soul tour with Brother Ali and D1.
Yeah.
You know, you finally get a little break, a little rest time before you go out on the road again. So what's your state of mind right now, man?
It's pretty good because I've, you know, the last just 2 nights ago, 2 nights ago was the end of the tour, and we ended at First Ave, and it was really, really, really good. It was like probably one of the highlights of the tour for whatever various reasons, you know what I mean? But I think Ali was pretty nervous about it at first, especially when the tickets first went on sale. It was like a couple hundred or whatever, and it just stayed that way for a while, and then all of a sudden it started boosting as it got closer. And that not only that though, but there's a lot to it, you know. But so the show happened, and everything went without any real hitch, you know what I mean? There was a couple things maybe, but it was great. And now I'm still kind of reminiscing about it in my head, but I have to kind of start focusing on the next tour that starts on the 10th. So everything's good. Like last night we had our first, at least one of our first get-togethers for the Atmosphere tour. We just like, okay, what are we gonna do here? Well, we did something right before I left to kind of get an idea, because we're switching up the set pretty dramatically for this next tour. So I don't know, my state of mind's pretty good. I'm ready for whatever, you know. I'm ready to go, you know, to a degree. Yeah, I'm excited.
Let's kind of just take a step back for a few moments and let's get into your origin story a little bit. You come from a military family. You've lived all over the place.
Yeah.
How did you find music and kind of transform it into the way you perform it now?
When I first started, let's say when I was like 12, 13 years old, 1983, when I first started touching turntables and stuff, and breakdancing and all the elements of hip hop that were happening at the time. You know, I tried them all to make it short. I tried them all, I had the most success with the turntable thing, and it spoke to me the loudest. Plus, I had access to things that normal kids didn't have. My dad was he as a hobby kind of messed around with DJing with the disco days from the disco era. And the disco era kind of transferred into hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth of that. So I had access to stuff early. I figured it out kind of early. There wasn't a lot of videos to see, but I kind of knew a guy. I knew a guy that did something, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. So anyway, I started the DJ thing, and then that transformed into production over the years. It was a slow, gradual process. But what I did do in my earliest years, I was DJing and started doing, like, I wanted to be like Grandmaster Flash or DST or Jam Master J, so from Run DMC. So those three things were the three people that I was emulating throughout the 80s. Now, that all went away from me a little bit as producing came into play. Producing and wanting to make records was my big deal. And as that moved on, the DJing thing stayed away.
Mm-hmm.
When I started bringing live DJing elements to my life again in my middle 30s, it started coming back my old roots. And it really amplified this year when I did my own DJ set. I really transformed my brain, and DJing for Ali is a complete different thing than
Right.
Atmosphere. So I transformed from my earliest time period. I applied all of that ambition and love and all the things from my childhood into this year.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to explain it.
Yeah. Well, having just recently watched one of your DJ sets last week, man, that was a lot of fun. And it was fun watching you get into it and kind of be overtaken by the music and the moment and the synergy that you were having with the crowd.
Yeah.
What or who inspires you the most, like musically, whenever you are putting together a set or a track? Or
I guess nowadays it might be a little bit of everything. Everything throughout the years. I've said this has been my go-to on this answer kind of too, is the acceptance thing, like the desire to be accepted by the world or whatever, you know what I mean? That's still, or by your peers or friends and things like that. So there's that always is around or
Mhm.
maintains in my life at some level. And then, you know, I don't know, just now what I did, I'm trying to be honest with you. I really, there might be just an element of, because I hadn't done it before, but I've
Right.
always thought I could do that. I'm talking about the opening of the DJ set.
Right.
I've always thought I could do it, and I always figured I would do it better than a lot of people. I just assumed it, but I never proved it.
Right.
Now I just proved it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So that's
Yes.
what that was. When I was doing it, what I do for Ali, I'm inspired by Ali and the music we've made in the past. So that's what that is. When I'm working with Atmosphere and we're doing what we're doing, I'm working on what we have built together and what's my role in that. You know what I mean? And what's my character within Atmosphere. So that's more the heavier inspiration, is dealing with these people. But
That,
dealing with my own personal DJ set thing that I just did, I'm saying, I had never proved it before, so I had to go and see if I could really do it. So it was more based in that.
this past year, you've kind of proven it in other ways through these collection of sounds albums. You've already released volume 1 and volume 2.
Yeah.
Volume 3 is going to drop in January. What can you tell us about those 3 albums? How are they each different from themselves, and how do they play into the bigger picture?
Well, it started off innocent enough in the sense that I just wanted to release some stuff because I just ran out of artists to work with. You know what I mean? I just, you know, Slug can only rhyme so many, do so much, and same with Ali. So, and I have all this other music from over the years that I wanted to show. So some of that started that off, and then uh, the when I came up with the idea of having the collection of sounds, I was more like, oh well, I wanted to do there was a cover concept I had, which of the physical album, which
Hmm.
was a piece of art that connects them all. It's kind of like this. The record label Celluloid had these records in the early '80s that were inspirational to my career, where there was a Futura had did this graffiti piece on 4 or 5 singles, and you put them
Right.
together, and it makes this cool thing. So it was loosely based on that. That was like one of the first things I thought of. And then I wanted the front cover to all be something like not Blue Note, but have like a very cool picture and like a very library record kind of thing to it. So I had a
Yeah.
concept for the whole cover thing that I wanted to do, especially if it's going to be 4, and I wanted to tie them all together. I'm all about uniform. I can't help it. And then the music was somewhat easy to, at least in my brain. I was like, well, I could make the first one just more like what what how I see rap. Like, what do I see with rap music? How do I look at that? The second one would be the kind of style I did with Felt. So it's more a little more happier or funky type of a vibe for 2. That's a little
Yeah.
more like, maybe that's even closer to what I like the most. Then I was like, 3, I'll do like more my dub reggae influence thing. And because I've done that over the years, a lot of it kind of, but it's barely been out. It just sprinkles here and there.
Sure.
And I've always thought that I should do one of those. And I wanted to do one during the pandemic, but I couldn't get no one to rap on them. Like I had like these 5 dub song things, and but nobody really wanted to do it. Actually, everybody rapped on all the beats, but then they didn't want to do the actual project. That's, you know what I mean? They didn't want
Yeah.
to do just that sound. And I thought that was a heartbreaker. Then I was like, why'd you guys use all these beats? Because
Right.
they used them all, and then they went all over the place. But anyway, so I was like, all right, well, then I'm going to just concentrate on doing it like this. And now when I look at 3, I'm like, dang, I didn't go far enough. I should have went harder and further with the dub thing. Whatever though, what you going to do?
Right.
And then the fourth one, I thought I was going to go like a real dark area. It's like, it's just the darkest thing I can make. But as I was doing it, and compiling things from over the years and putting new things together, I was like, oh, as a standalone piece, I didn't like it that much. So I started brightening it up at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, oh, these are 4 pieces in a larger picture, but I tried to individualize them each too. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
makes
For
sense.
sure.
So yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. And I don't know how people will perceive those and see if they can even know that there's a difference. I think the average people, they don't think about it like that. They just go, "Oh, that's a good beat or not." You know what I mean? Or a good song or not. They don't care. But
Right.
that's what I have to do stuff like that to make it work.
So when you're thinking about things in terms of putting together an album, do you envision things as a full total concept from start to finish, or do
Yeah.
you look at it as its individual pieces?
Start to finish, I already know. Like at least definitely these days, because that's how where I've evolved to. Because it used to be where I just make songs, and as it went, the
Right.
songs just revealed what it is. Not anymore. I present an album when I'm starting to work with somebody, like, okay, this is the sound I think is going to be the best. If I know the person, obviously I know. I mean, I've been in Atmosphere for 30 years. I know
Right.
what we've done. You know what I mean? Know what we're kind of capable of. I know what we need to try harder at. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's easy for me to have a basic idea of what we should do next as to change to kind of have so the audience doesn't actually know what we're about to do next. I don't I don't like the idea of somebody putting in the record being like, oh, I know what this is going to be. They should have an idea of some kind of comfort, knowing that it'll be, done at the best it can be done, and then have a certain kind of sound to it, because we're not going to change who we are. You know what I mean? But
Right.
maybe the experience will be a little different than your last one you heard, or better,
Yeah.
hopefully better than the last one, but you know.
Yeah.
So I walk into everything like that.
Dude, I love that because we are living in a world where people just consume in bite-sized pieces instead of like looking at the whole meal to a certain extent. You know, you
Yeah.
look at release strategies that big major record labels have now, and they piecemeal release song at a time, song at a time, song at a time. And it's hard to see a concept in totality when they're putting out music that way. So it's really encouraging to me to see that some of the people that I look up to are still looking at albums as a full concept from start to finish.
I think our label still does release piece by piece the songs.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
just marketing.
that's just 101. Yeah, yeah. But I never think of it in that way. I do what I do, and I let every department do what they're supposed to do. You know?
For sure, for sure. Now, I know this is like asking a person to pick their favorite child, but do you have a project that you've done, whether it be an album or with an artist or somebody in particular, that sticks out to you as being one of your most favorite things that you've ever been a part of?
Yeah, I've said you can't imagine how much fun we're having. I've said that for years, and it's mostly been true. Um, and but you catch me on a certain day, I might say the Realities record from a few years ago,
Yeah.
because that thing is pretty great. And then yeah, I don't know, I mean, it changes here and there depending on the day, but so yeah, it's a little tough to say, but there's definitely moments where you're like, oh, I did that. I tried this and it worked for me. Like sometimes the Day Before Halloween record,
Yeah.
was a was great that we did that. You know what I mean? I'm really proud that we even did that. You know,
Yeah.
that it had that sound, and we went there. We tried that. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And the audience, the people that did like it liked it. And the people that didn't just ignored it, and that's fine. That's
Right.
fine. They did. It's quite all right. Yeah.
You know, if I'm ever sitting around the house and I'm having people over and we're like playing cards or something and I want to turn their heads, I put on the Felt 4 record.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. Yeah.
Oh man. Because you mentioned that. You mentioned the how Felt was really, like close to what you were into, and you actually played a track live last week from it, and I was like, "Oh, I recognize this. Hell yeah."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that the Felt 4 was great. And two, I did Felt 2 as well, and that had a similar vibe, you know what I mean? Yeah, and that's that sound that's probably closest to who I really am.
Where did the influence for that sound come from?
That's my dad. My dad
Yeah.
was big into that kind of sound. Yeah, and my uncle, those guys, they liked the Minneapolis sound. They're originally from here. That was their big thing. And so that whole era, and they're big into certain like jazz fusion of the 70s and just stuff like that, and 70s music in general, like funk and soul. They're big on that. And so that's my take on early 80s soul, R&B and soul, which I was into as well as a kid. I
Right.
I loved Ready for the World and Zapp and Roger Troutman and all
Yes.
these things. I loved all that stuff. Keith Sweat, everything. So that the Felt stuff, that sound was my take. And that's how I saw when Merce and Slug were together. I don't
Yeah.
That's not the sound I hear when me and Slug are together. You know,
Right.
when me and Slug are together, I hear it's definitely more of a different a different artistic way. But when I seen them two together, I was like, oh, this sounds like this. It sounds like a little bit of Minneapolis, a little bit of LA.
Yeah.
and a little more on the funner side of Minneapolis and LA sound, you know? So I aimed toward that, you know?
With all the work that you've done as far as production goes and putting together your own art, do you ever separate yourself? And what are your personal listening habits like outside of the stuff that you create?
Man, one of the biggest things I probably do is I have this, you know, a Shazam playlist that just random songs from all over the place and things I've Shazammed at home just to have them in my phone real easy. And I'm
Right.
on the plane, and I travel a lot. I'm on planes or whatever, and blah blah blah. So I'm constantly just listening to that. So it might be a Phil Collins song right next to Eric B. and Rakim, right next to some weird elevator music thing that I just heard, right next to some Radiohead junk. You know what I mean? You
Right.
never know. You know what I mean? It's just like random things I'm just kind of listening to. That sparked my interest when I was somewhere. You know what I mean? And so
Sure.
that's probably one of the bigger things I do. But when I'm at home around all my records, like I just skip around things so fast, and I just need to hear like a certain amount of bars or something, and then get in the mood to make my own stuff. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so that's kind of my thing lately. You know what I mean? I like to try to listen to whole albums that have just come out if I can find time somehow. But finding times they're really tough these days.
Yeah.
And I think it's tough for everybody. And so it makes me sad and you know, like, I don't know who the hell's going to listen to my whole album now. I I still haven't even made it through a whole new Kendrick record. I made it to 4 or 5 songs, and I got distracted with something, and I didn't even go back to it yet. So it's just
Oh,
like,
it's so good.
it's crazy. Like I'm constantly like, yeah, it's like, it's a busy world, man.
Is there an artist that you haven't had the chance to work with yet that you would like to work with in the future?
There's millions of artists that I haven't been able to work with, you know, but I would, my door is open to whatever, but I haven't, there's no specific person. Oh, I wish I could do that. You know, there
Right.
used to be, but that's changed. A lot of those guys are older, and my ideas have changed. I used to have this big thing where, oh, I think if I could do this sound with so and so, I could maybe change a bunch of stuff.
Right.
But now I don't know if that's true anymore. You know what I mean? From what I do, you know, I don't know if I can now. So I guess I'm hoping the door stays open, and whatever happens, happens.
So you're about to embark on the 20th anniversary tour
Hmm.
for it's the Imagine the Fun tour for
Yes.
the album. You can't imagine how much fun we're having. Um, what can you tell us about that? Who all is going to be on that tour, and how excited are you guys for it?
Dibs is gonna be on it, and Sage Francis, and they're both obviously really dope. I haven't seen Sage perform in a long time, but I
Yeah.
know he's still great. He's always been great. I toured with him once before, years and years ago, and yeah, he's a hilarious guy. Very smart, genius type guy. That's the thing about a lot of these at least these underground rappers that I've known over the years. They're so smart. It's fucking ridiculous, man.
Dude, that
It's
is so
crazy.
funny. You say that. I'm in a chat group, and a group of friends. I'm kind of the resident hip hop head in the group. All these other
Yeah.
guys, we've all played in rock bands in the past, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm kind of the resident head of the group, and I'm like, and they're like, so who should I be listening to? And I'm like, okay, you need to be listening to Atmosphere. There's a group called These Hands that you should check out, which is Murs and Grouch. You should check out this artist, check out Ali. And they're like, well, I hadn't heard much of them. I go, that's because commercial radio hasn't shoved it down your throat. But I will tell
Yeah.
you, it is the most intelligent hip hop out there, period.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy.
But it goes to exactly what you were saying. Some of these indie guys are just genius,
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
specifically with wordplay.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. They're crazy smart guys.
So, man, I'm not going to hold you up too much longer, but my favorite wrap up question, it's kind of complex, but it kind of goes back to the whole thing about being okay. And my question is what's Ant's advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today?
You have to start inside. it should be the thing we focus on first. Change your inside and how you approach other people and how you treat other people. And it's something I've had to learn how to do. I'm still not great at it, but I think you start there. And if you could just learn to just treat yourself more kind, and then you treat the next person like you want to be treated. It's all this classic cliche, goofy things you've heard all your life, but they're true. Cliches they're just true. You know what I mean?
You're right, dude. You are right. And you got to give yourself a little bit more grace and credit, man. When I saw you last week, there was not a single person that you turned away. You were shaking hands with every single person that approached you at the show, before the show, after the show, during the show. And I think if people don't already know this about you, they're going to learn this from listening or watching this, but everything you just said is absolutely the truth, and it's something that you live.
Yeah. I believe in it. Yeah.
Dude, I love this. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you are giving all of Ant's projects a follow on social media. Check out Brother Ali's new album, which is about to drop, Certified Soul.
Valentine's Day, yeah.
Dude, I love Handwriting. That song is so good.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I totally agree. It's
so far
good.
That's my favorite one of all the new tracks.
Dude, it's up there. Yeah. Yeah, I won't even lie. I love it too. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you get a chance to check out Atmosphere or Ant solo, or however you can see this man in person on tour, do yourself a favor and do it. It's a treat. Ant's new album, Collection of Sounds Volume 3, drops in January. Look for that release. And brother, thank you for doing the show, man.
Oh man, thank you for having me. Yeah.
I'm glad we're connected now, and I'm glad to call you a friend. The world's a much better place with you in it, my guy.
You're too kind, man. Thank you. It was a very pleasure talking with you and meeting you the other day too. It was awesome.
Dude, I know, right?
But in case anybody's watching this that are wondering, this dude acts the same way in person. It's just the same sweet guys that you're seeing right here. It's the same exact thing. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that means the world to me. Thank you very much, my friend.
Yeah. Thanks, my man.